Who is Mr. Flashy, leader of the notorious Gucci gang? And how did they quickly rise to prominence in the Irish underworld? Stay tuned as we look at the members of the gang, the crimes they're known for, and give a real name to the aptly titled Mr. Flashy. Welcome back to Crime Chronicles. Today we take a look at a group that has terrorized an area of Dublin for a few years. Many of the gang members, renowned for their arrogance and a lack of concern for anything other than ascending the criminal underworld, have ended up either dead or in prison. The group was obsessed with reaching the top spot of the Irish criminal gang scene and becoming the top dogs. What they don't realize is that this takes more than fake tan, whitened teeth, designer clothes, and expensive watches. The gang still operates and is engaged in relentless territorial disputes with rival gangs. The infamous Mr. Flashy, along with his partners Scott Capper and Callan Smith, led the notorious Gucci gang and caused terror in the Finglas area of Dublin. The group earned the Gucci gang name due to their wealth, which they flaunted by wearing lavish attire and expensive accessories. During the rise of the gang, it was rumoured that Mr. Flashy, still in his early 20s, hailed from an affluent and prosperous family. We can assume that coming from an affluent background instilled a drive to succeed in Mr. Flashy, but he chose to succeed in the world of crime rather than a more legitimate career. Money, as they say, is the root of all evil, and Mr. Flashy has done some evil things in his relentless pursuit of wealth. Lavish parties, extravagant clothing, high-end watches, and an array of other costly indulgences were his trademarks. It was all of this that led to the nickname Mr. Flashy. His early criminal career saw him associated with the Kinahan cartel, an opportunity he would use to grow his profile. Mr. Flashy would spend time growing his criminal business, surrounding himself with associates who would become known as the Gucci gang. Although he was well known to the police, initially they were unable to charge him with serious enough crimes to get him off the street. The public started to become aware of Mr. Flashy and his gang once the Finglas feud got underway. The onset of his dominance can be traced back to early 2017, marked by a notorious incident. It is rumoured that he launched an attack on a close associate of the renowned hitman and Hutch associate Glenn O'Toole, hoping to make a name for himself. Then, on October 4th, 2017, Glenn O'Toole was stopped by Gardaí in Ashtown, County Dublin. In his car, they discovered a firearm, several rounds of ammunition, a Halloween mask, and a container of petrol, which Gardaí believed was about to be used in a hit. Glenn O'Toole had been on his way to murder Mr. Flashy. His motivation was revenge. The Finglas feud was ramping up between these two local factions with links to larger criminal groups, the Kinahans and the Hutches. In this instance, it seems that the intervention of the Gardaí saved Mr. Flashy from an attempt on his life. Glenn O'Toole was arrested for having illegal weapons, and in a dark twist, would take his own life in prison only a week later. He had tucked pillows under his blanket to make it seem that he was asleep in bed should a guard walk past his cell. The next morning, O'Toole's body was discovered near the bathroom area of his cell. 2 notes were found on his table, but the contents of these notes have not been made public. It is understood he had been threatened by the Kinahan cartel-linked drugs mob before he took his own life. The feud escalated further when a group associated with Mr. Flashy and the Gucci gang stormed the pub where O'Toole's friends had gathered before his funeral. O'Toole's friends were drinking at the Cardiff Inn when the rival gang turned up. But they turned on their heels when they found more of O'Toole's crew were there than they'd expected. The row escalated into an all-out brawl when gangsters on both sides produced weapons such as baseball bats and glass bottles. Starting trouble on the day of Glenn O'Toole's funeral was seen to be the ultimate act of disrespect, and it was hoped that this would gain Mr. Flashy and the Gucci gang additional street cred. Among the key players that day were well-known associates of Mr. Flashy, including Paul Brannigan, who was out on bail at the time for his alleged involvement in the murder of Jason Saunders. The tragic incident involved Paul using a golf club as a weapon in 2014. Also present at the Cardiff Inn brawl was Scott Capper, once an accomplished football player. As tensions flared, chaos erupted in the pub, resulting in a massive brawl that quickly escalated. Police were called to the scene not long after the brawl began, leading to the arrest of 7 individuals, including Scott Capper and Paul Brannigan. This brawl made national headlines and resulted in prison terms for members of both gangs. It seems that this incident was the final straw for the Kinahans, and they decided to distance themselves from Mr. Flashy and the Gucci gang. And as we know, the Kinahan cartel had tried to avoid feuds to focus on growing their criminal empire. Things started to get progressively worse for Mr. Flashy as more and more of his gang were either jailed or killed. 2019 was a particularly bad year, with his close friend Patrick Caslin being found in a North Dublin park with a single gunshot wound to the head. He later died in hospital. Although Gardaí initially suspected a gangland motive to the shooting based on Caslin's links to organised crime, they quickly realised that Caslin had accidentally shot himself while filming a social media video. 2021 saw Mr. Flashy get arrested, along with a group of his associates, as part of a Gardaí raid on an apartment in Dublin's Temple Bar area. Gardaí suspected the apartment was being used to cut up cocaine, and a copious amount of the drug was found during the raid, as well as large amounts of cash and several mobile phones. Although he had always been on the Gardaí's radar, this was one of the first times he was directly linked and arrested for large-scale drug offences. Most of the Gucci gang's senior members are now in jail, including Carolyn Smith, Scott Capper, and his brother Mark, and hitman Mohammed Smew. Other gang members have abandoned Mr. Flashy as the net has started to close in around them. One of the biggest bombshells came when Mr. Flashy was finally publicly named. Ireland's strict defamation laws meant that for years, Mr. Flashy's face was blurred in pictures with other known criminal associates, and he was only referred to in the media by his nickname. Mr. Flashy has now been named as David Glenn Ward, and his face can now be seen should you search his name on the internet. Ward has been forced to draft in a new, far younger crew of young men who want to get involved in the world of organised crime. Ward continues to be watched by the Gardaí and other Irish gangs, but he has kept a lower profile of late, constantly changing addresses, and he is also known to wear a bulletproof vest as added protection. The rise of David Glenn Ward in the world of Irish crime had been quick, aided by his association with the Kinahans and a close-knit group of loyal associates. But as these all fell away, it seems so did Mr. Flashy's high profile. Only time will tell if he can once again become a major player. Thank you for joining us on Crime Chronicles today. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends.